you launched a magazine that many people may not remember. It was called Talk, and it was supposed to be the greatest thing of all time.
Correct.
It had the funding to be terrific. It had the writers to be terrific. It came out at a bad moment. It also had a partner that is rather damaged today, Harvey Weinstein.
Yes, indeed.
In retrospect, given what we know now, did you miss something?
That's the understatement of the year. Well, you know, Harvey, when Harvey was selling you something, was very persuasive. And in the portraits of the monster, as it were, that we now are reading constantly every day, people forget that actually, you know, this man at the time, he was just doing Shakespeare in Love. He'd done The English Patient. The work he was doing was remarkable filmmaking, and he seemed to be a man who really had a great sort of entrepreneurial creativity to offer. I left The New Yorker because I really wanted The New Yorker to be more than a magazine. I wanted it to be a radio show, a book publishing company, a movie studio, and frankly, I was right. When you consider that was 1998, my idea was that The New Yorker was more than a magazine. And Harvey came along and said to me, I think you should be doing something that's more than a magazine. So he spoke the words that I was thinking. And I decided to not, you know, delve any deeper. I mean, it wasn't known, as we now know. So many people said I didn't know.
But there were hints, right? You were also involved with the publishing company, and there were contracts on the books for books that had no due date, from a variety of young women, nearly famous women, a stewardess on a private jet. I mean, this was going to tell you something. It didn't take too much journalistic instinct.
It took about a year to really figure that out, but it's...
So in retrospect, should you have dug deeper?
No, because, you know, at the time, you know, he was my business partner in a different office. I'd heard that he liked women, but everybody knew that Harvey had, you know, was obviously susceptible to glamorous women. But it wasn't my business to pry into what he did after hours, or what he did on trips to Cannes, or what he was doing when his office was closed. I had no idea what was going on. He was an extraordinarily, you know, difficult partner, I have to say. And I did have a certain amount of PTSD when I left, I can tell you.
Why was he difficult?
Because he was so often volcanic, you know, profane, abusive, all of these things that, you know, that we read today. He was like that in business. And I do tend to think that people who are abusive sexually are frequently that way in other situations. So it's not, in a way, a character surprise.
So as the accusations pile up today, you think, oh yes, of course, it makes complete sense.
I was shocked. I think everyone was shocked at the extent of these violent, you know, acts. I really was. I did not think that was the extent of it. I really didn't.
There's a wide berth between rape and unwanted sexual
Right.
advance. On the unwanted sexual advance side, there are moments in the book where you, as a female editor, are somewhat shockingly, somewhat not shockingly, confronted by men being a bit forward, commenting on your shoes and suggesting perhaps that is a key to your success in other arenas and how you may be there. Did Harvey Weinstein ever...
Never.
come
No,
on
I
to
mean,
you inappropriately?
I think Harvey's taste was, you know, girls at 21 who were in high-heeled shoes from Hollywood. You know, I was never, ever, I will say, in any sense, inappropriately approached by Harvey at all. But, you know, it's a very shocking and disturbing story. And I think it's been very cathartic indeed to hear the silence broken, because what I was aware of is how much Harvey spun. You know, I mean, there was so much suppression of stories. I always felt there was suppression of, you know, business PR and bad PR in that regard. But now one realizes that this obsession with PR, this obsession with the stories, with the thousands of PRs that seem to be on the payroll, were probably all about protecting this other stuff that was happening, which I didn't know about. But it's interesting, though, how deep paranoia can often cause, in the end, the very thing you most dread to happen, right? I mean, Harvey spent all of his time suppressing stories, and then finally, when the story broke, it was so much bigger. I mean, I've never seen a fall that epic, you know? I mean, it was the biggest, it was the Citizen Kane of falls, you know?
Yeah.
And
he's lost everything.
that's how fate played out.